charge of the decision, how many games would Myles Garrett be suspended for?
I'd bring him down to 4 games. I think that would be right given the precedent that we have. You go back to Antonio Smith, who had that 2013 incident. He swung a helmet. He got 4 games. You could also say Albert Hainsworth, who stomped on the face and effectively busted a guy's face open. I think it was 30 stitches. He got 5 games. So maybe you go up to 5 games. But I think based on precedent, that's the responsible thing to do, and that's the decent thing to do. I think a lot of the penalty that he's receiving is about the fact that it was on prime time and everyone's reaction to it, which I don't think is fair. I don't think you penalize somebody based on the way other people react. You penalize them based on the
Could I play devil's advocate to that?
Absolutely.
In the world in which we live, optics matter, and the optics of this one, whether it just got more attention because of the circumstances or not, were overwhelmingly bad. Do you want to send a message that we're reducing this in any way?
Yeah, I think you're right. If I'm the commissioner, my concern is not about being fair to Myles Garrett. My concern is about making money, and hurting the image of the league by bringing him back in is a dangerous thing to do. But I feel like I would sleep better at night knowing that I treated someone fairly and I didn't overreact based on something that is not in his control.
Okay, next. We talked a little bit about Mitchell Trubisky already earlier, so here's the question. Who will be the Chicago Bears starting quarterback week 1 of next season?
I think it's Cam Newton, would be my guess. I think that Mitchell still be there because you can't trade him or anything like that. I think Teddy Bridgewater would be probably the guy that they want to get because I think he'll be the best free agent quarterback in the situation, and he's been able to play well in cold situations at Minnesota. But I think that Teddy Bridgewater will see the point you made earlier, that this team offensively is not well constructed, and he'll want to go somewhere else, and he'll have plenty of options. Cam Newton won't have as many options, and I think that Tepper, the owner down in Carolina, he's going to clean house. I think that he's going to move on from the quarterback, move on from the coach, and a lot of people down there are going to be looking for jobs, and I think Cam Newton's going to find one up in Chicago.
It's a fascinating. I know a lot of people in Chicago would like to see that. It would be a very interesting thing. All right, last one. We talked about the construct of the NFL playoffs as of right now. Give me a team that is on the outside looking in that you strongly believe is getting into the postseason.
Okay, this is the one. The Rams. I think the Rams, their offense has not been very impressive. I think that we can't completely bail on McVay's ability to create some offense, but their defense has been the best in the league as far as scoring concerns since they got Ramsey. They're second in the league in efficiency since they added Jalen Ramsey. I think this defense, we always talk about teams that succeed have something that they can hang their hat on. And they can hang their hat on this defense. I think that's more than a lot of teams can say. It's a real long shot, but I think they're the team that could potentially do it because their culture is strong and they have plenty of talent on that side of the ball.
I am seeing a look of extraordinary skepticism on the face of Damian Woody.
Were you going to creep up on me like that?
You don't seem to agree, D-Wood.
Are we scared of you?
No.
You're not buying the Rams.
I mean, we're talking about a quarterback who has more turnovers and touchdowns, and this Rams team that's third in the NFC West, and then all of a sudden they're going to leapfrog and somehow find their way into the playoffs. Unless they get the quarterback situation straightened out or the offense in general, this Rams team will not make the playoffs.
I do want to focus on that for a minute. What happened to Jared Goff? He led his team to the Super Bowl a year ago. He made some big plays to get there. He got the money this year, and it seems as though this thing has fallen apart, even though the pieces are still in place around him.
Right. I mean, it appears that he is a guy who some of us try to say about other quarterbacks that you need everything to be perfect. He's a guy where you need everything to be perfect. You can't have any pressure on him. You need your running back to be healthy and performing. You need Cooks out there catching balls. You need Kupp out there catching balls. And you need McVay to be able to continue to innovate. It seems like McVay is still doing some of the things that he had success with in the past, and people have figured out how to stop him.
If the Rams feel like one big cautionary tale to me, because they gave Todd Gurley all of this money when they didn't have to, and now we see he doesn't even play all the time. Now they give Jared Goff all of this money, and now he needs everything to be perfect around him.
Yeah,
I mean, the Cowboys would be the one because they gave they gave Zeke all that money, running back all the money, and now they may do the same with Dak.
But I think these guys are better. I think the Cowboys guys are better. I mean, at the end of right now, if you had to pick between those two, those two twosomes, you would take the one in Dallas, right?
That's correct. I would. I think that Dak Prescott is a more dynamic quarterback than Jared Goff.
So you believe the Rams will make the playoffs?
Yes.
And you do not?
No.
Okay, I have to say, not only because he's bigger than you, I side strongly with Damian Woody on this. All right, I have another question I want to ask. This one comes from college football because we have a game this weekend that is as big as any that will be played this year, and that is inclusive of the one between Alabama and LSU. It's Penn State and Ohio State with absolutely everything at stake. in Columbus. A lot of questions will get answered. The playoff implications are overwhelming. Look at the All-State playoff predictor. Penn State would have a 59% chance to make the playoff with a win. That would be the third best of any team. Essentially, they would be in the driver's seat if they win. Ohio State, meanwhile, a virtual lock with a win compared to a 39% chance with a loss. So let me have Acho and Maria weigh in on this because you guys cover the sport for us. Maria, let's play a little game of if-then.
Let's do it.
I think we all understand if Ohio State wins, they're very much in the driver's seat and Penn State is basically done. But what happens if Penn State goes into Columbus and wins Saturday? Then what?
I still think that Ohio State, with one loss, and if that one loss is to Penn State, they wouldn't play in a Big Ten championship game. They would still be one of the top 4 teams and going to a college football playoff, while Penn State would probably be playing in the Rose Bowl.
So let me make sure I'm clear. You believe that if, assuming they beat Michigan the following week, Ohio State still gets in?
I believe Ohio State can afford one loss.
What do you think?
I absolutely disagree. I think Ohio State can't afford it. If Ohio State loses to Penn State, Ohio State, like Maria said, doesn't go to the Big Ten championship game. But even bigger than that, Penn State likely plays Minnesota and can beat Minnesota in the Big Ten championship game. So track with me. Penn State can say we beat every team on our schedule. Their one loss this year is to Minnesota. You go to the Big Ten championship game, you beat Minnesota. You've now beat Ohio State. You beat Minnesota.
I hear you. I totally understand that. But here's what I'm going back to. The precedent has been set. When Alabama lost to Auburn, did not win the SEC West, and still made it to the college football playoff in 2017, they were the best team in the country. They proved that by winning the national championship. You would be remiss if you left Ohio State out, which is probably the most balanced team that we have right now.
Very true.
Out of the conversation to play for a national championship.
But let me say that you don't necessarily you can both be right. They can put Ohio State and Penn State in if they want to. If Penn State beats Ohio State and wins the Big Ten championship, they get in, and you can still put Ohio State in.
That might be the Northwestern in you talking, Greeny, because I just don't see that it's feasible that you put 2 Big Ten teams in this year in a year of college football when there's so much parity.
Are you going to put 2 SEC teams in?
It's much more likely than you see 2 Big Ten teams.
Agreed, and that's part of the strength of record and the charts that you like to pull out.
I love my sheet.
Yeah, you love your sheet. Because of Georgia that's sitting at 15 with their strength of record or their strength of schedule, then they're going to get in over, say, a Penn State team that's having to play games against, say, Rutgers or Indiana and Nebraska compared to playing Auburn and Florida. And
here is my one fear. If you do what Maria is saying and you do follow that precedent that you set years back and you put Ohio State in, even if they lose, then the games don't matter. And you can't tell me the games matter. If Minnesota beats Ohio State in the final game of the season, or if Penn State beats Ohio State this coming Saturday, how can you still say, Ohio State, you have the trump card?
The bottom line of it is what we have established here. It is as big a game as there will be this season, right? I mean, this has absolutely
one and
everything.
The SEC championship, to me, are the 2 biggest games left on the
Well, so then let me ask you, let's do another one. Let's just do another if then, because I'm enjoying this. We have Georgia, LSU right now sort of shaping up to play each other in the SEC championship game. Assuming that does take place, what happens if Georgia beats LSU in that game?
2 SEC teams make it to the college football playoff, LSU and Georgia being those 2 teams.
I think all hell breaks loose because, to Maria's point, 2 SEC teams will likely make it in. But then the problem is, get this, Greeny, Georgia plays A&M this weekend. What happens if Georgia loses, Maria, to A&M, which nobody is factoring in? I don't know why. And then, Greeny, a 2-loss Georgia team beats LSU. Then what? I just think that we're already assuming LSU gets in regardless because of what they've done. I don't know that it's that simple. Georgia's resume, LSU's resume rather, it does look really good. You've beat Alabama, you've beat Florida, you've beat Auburn, but there are some really good resumes out there. All hell breaks loose, though.
So, you know, the way the committee works is that the tiebreaker of a conference championship only applies when 2 teams are considered comparable. Now, if LSU is just head and shoulders better than Minnesota or whatever, then we're not going to use the conference title game to be a tiebreaker in that instance. And I think LSU would go in because the eye test would say that.